Hi, my name is Patrick Reagan. Welcome to the third practice quiz for the A+ 1101 exam. This quiz represents 25 typical questions for the 1101 A+ exam. As you go through these questions, you may pause the video if you need more time to think through the question. Remember, don't try to remember each question and answer, but try to understand why the answer is the right answer. Each answer will also reference the video where the answer can be found. Question 1. What is used to provide name resolution for domain names to IP address? Answer: DNS. DNS stands for Domain Name System, which translates domain names into IP addresses that browsers use to load internet pages. Question 2. What is the best way to get the official latest driver for a device? Answer: download the driver from the vendor's website. To get the most recent driver, you need to go to the vendor website. Question 3. Which of the following server types can dynamically assign primary and secondary DNS? Answer: DHCP server. DHCP server can assign the computer's IP address, subnet mask, default gateway, and DNS server entries. Question 4. Which of the following allows a switch to be divided into separate logical networks? Answer: VLAN. A virtual local area network, or VLAN, is a method of creating logical segmented networks within a physical network infrastructure. Question 5. What type of internet connection would you use in a desert with no infrastructure? Answer: satellite. Satellite internet relies on satellite signals to provide internet access, making it a suitable option for users in remote or unimproved areas where other traditional infrastructure such as fiber, cable, and DSL may not be available. Question 6. Which of the following can carry an audio signal? Answer: HDMI. HDMI carries audio and video signals, which is best for TV to PC connections. Question 7. Which of the following can you use to locate the best Wi-Fi channel to use? Answer: Wi-Fi Analyzer. A Wi-Fi analyzer is a tool that helps users track and analyze the performance of their wireless network. Question 8. What type of drive is installed directly onto the motherboard without using cables to connect to it? Answer, M2. M2 drives are SSD drives that are inserted into a slot and screwed directly into the motherboard. Question 9. Which port is needed for RDP connection? Answer, 3389. Remote Desktop Protocol, or RDP, uses TCP port 3389 to connect to and manage your computer just as if you were sitting in front of the computer. Question 10. Which of the following best describes metered utilization for cloud computing? Answer, cloud resources are billed based on usage. Metered utilization is based on a fee charged by cloud service providers on the basis of how much of a resource was used. Question 11. A new high-definition webcam is only shown a few frames per second instead of the 30 frames per second. Which is most likely the cause of the problem? Answer, USB 2 port does not have the sufficient bandwidth. Webcam is most likely connected to USB. For high bandwidth, you need to use USB 3. Question 12. A new VoIP solution is being implemented. However, the new VoIP phones do not require AC adapters. Which of the following will be needed for the phones to operate properly? Answer, PoE switch. Many VoIP devices operate with no direct AC power. Instead, they get their power through the network connection via Power over Ethernet, or PoE. Question 13. Which of the following replaced the Apple 30-pin connector and is also reversible? Answer, Lightning. While both USB-C and Lightning is reversible, Apple replaced the 30-pin connector with Lightning. Question 14. You're going to travel to a country where you cannot get personal cell phone service. Which of the following would you use to resolve this issue? Answer, PRL. The Preferred Roaming List, or PRL, is a database stored on CDMA and LTE devices, which information about preferred roaming partners and networks that the device should connect to when roaming outside the home network. Updating the PRL ensures that the phone has the latest information about available roaming networks, which can be essential for getting cellular service in a foreign country. Question 15. Which of the following network devices should be installed between the ISP internet connection and the home LAN in a SOHO environment? Answer: firewall. A firewall should be placed between the ISP and the LAN to filter and monitor network traffic from the internet before it reaches the internal network. Question 16. You do not have any audio coming from the built-in speakers on your laptop. The Windows Device Manager shows the audio device with a down arrow. Which of the following will correct the audio issue? Answer: enable the audio device. A down arrow means that the device is disabled. To re-enable the device, right-click the device and select Enable Device. Question 17. A storage server has 3 drives which are reported in degraded mode. The files are still accessible. What type of RAID configuration is the server using? Answer: RAID 5. RAID 5 uses 3 or more disks, with one of the disks used as the parity drive. If one drive fails, you keep functioning since it uses the parity drive to calculate the data in the failed drive. Question 18. Which of the following connectors can be plugged into the Thunderbolt 3 port on a laptop? Answer: USB-C. The USB-C and the Thunderbolt cables are electrically compatible, which can be used for both. Question 19. You're troubleshooting a computer that does not get past post and gets stuck on the manufacturing logo screen. You removed all internal removable parts, however the problem still remains. What should you do next? Answer: swap the RAM to isolate as RAM as a problem. If the computer is not completing post and is stuck at the manufacturing logo screen even after disconnecting all internal removable parts, then the next step would be to test the RAM with different RAM and try the RAM in different slots, one at a time. This is because the issue could be due to a faulty RAM or a bad memory slot. Question 20. You have a computer that does not turn on when you press the power button. What should you do next to troubleshoot the problem? Answer: reseat the AC power cables and confirm the outlet is providing power. Check the obvious and make sure that the computer power cable is connected and that you have power coming from the AC outlet. Question 21. Which of the following network services allows a network device to always be assigned the same IP address based on the device's MAC address? Answer: DHCP. DHCP scopes can be configured with DHCP reservations to ensure that a computer will always get the same IP address on a subnet. Question 22. Which of the following allow all virtual machines to have RAM allocated for use? Answer: resource pooling. Resource pooling chooses how much of a physical resource to allocate to each VM. Question 23. It has been reported that another company is receiving spam that appears to come from your domain. If no accounts have been compromised, what is the best way to mitigate this problem? Answer: SPF. Sender Policy Framework, or SPF, is an email authentication standard that domain users use to specify which email servers will send email on your behalf, making it harder for fraudsters to spoof sender information. Question 24. You're attempting to connect to a hotel Wi-Fi to stream a movie, but you cannot get past the captive portal. Which of the following would you use to connect the device to the internet? Answer: connect to the hotspot on the user's device. You can connect to the internet using your phone's internet connection. It is highly unlikely the hotel will disable the captive portal because that would put the hotel at risk. Question 25. You replace a laptop motherboard and now the user is unable to use the fingerprint reader. The fingerprint reader does not recognize the user's fingerprint. Which of the following should you try first? Answer: update the drivers in the fingerprint software. The fingerprint reader is working, so you don't need to flash the BIOS, reset the BIOS, or clear TPM. You need to focus on the software that accesses and runs the fingerprint software. Therefore, you should try to update the drivers in the fingerprint software. Thank you for watching this video. The next video will be the 1101 practice exam number 4. Thank you.